What we know is that there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace relative to residential batteries. So we're going to take on some of those myths directly over the next few slides. A lot of folks really associate batteries with rooftop solar. Is it true that only solar homes will benefit from battery technology?
Nope, that's not true. It used to be that it was true many decades ago. They often went in hand because so many of the first buildings that were equipped with solar panels were off-grid, and so they needed that battery capability to help them still have power during the night or cloudy days. But battery energy storage can provide value in a wide variety of situations, whether solar is involved or not. First, any home that experiences occasional power outages is going to be more functional and convenient if there's energy stored on site in order to power electrical devices, regardless of what the grid is doing. Secondly, beyond convenience during grid outages, a battery can maintain vital services like refrigeration for food and medicine, or uninterrupted power for critical medical equipment or IT infrastructure. And then finally, depending on the plans that might be available from local utilities, battery owners may be able to sell stored energy back to the utility during periods of particularly high demand. Utilities have huge financial incentives to avoid brownouts and blackouts, so they see those home batteries as essentially a grid asset that they can utilize to minimize the chance of a brownout or blackout. So there's really no inherent connection between batteries and solar. As discussed at the beginning, batteries are best thought of as a potential alternative to a gas generator.
Okay, so solar and battery don't necessarily go hand in hand, but I still feel like, we don't see many batteries out there. The technology feels kind of exotic when we're talking about homes. Is it ready for prime time?
It is ready. You should know that most of the batteries that are whole home batteries are essentially just larger versions of the ones that we see in smartphones, tablets, or laptops. As of 2025, the technology is really pretty mature, and it continues to evolve and improve. As mentioned earlier, there are a variety of lithium-ion subtypes and completely different battery chemistries that are under development.
I mean, what does it cost? How much is it going to cost me to get a battery that'll run my whole home?
These products definitely aren't cheap. As of January 2025, you'll likely pay between $9,000 and $12,000 for a typical home battery of about 10 kilowatt hours. And that's including the savings from the 30% federal tax credit. But too expensive for one person might be completely reasonable to another person. It all depends on how important the functionality is to the buyer of it, and what options the buyer might have for monetizing the grid services of the battery. At any rate, as you can see in the graph, prices for batteries have been on a steady decline as global production has increased. There was a slight increase in costs in 2022 as so many supply chains were disrupted by Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Long term, it's reasonable to expect that prices are going to continue a modest decrease.
If I do have a battery, can I still be connected to the grid?
Yep, absolutely. There's a lot of confusion about solar and batteries, and it's sort of a shame because both technologies are actually relatively simple. A home-based solar array is a power plant that feeds directly into the electric panel. If that panel is grid-tied, as most are, there's likely a bidirectional meter that allows the excess electricity production from the panels to flow back out onto the grid. And the meter basically runs backwards when that happens. The battery, a whole home battery, also connects to the electric panel. It's charged by electricity flowing through that panel from any source, so that can be the grid or those PV panels, and it can also send power back to the panel, which then, as we discussed earlier, can make it available to the whole home, send it to specific circuits in the home, or even send it back out onto the grid. It's really no more complicated than that. If the home happens to be in an area without net metering, there wouldn't be a bidirectional meter. In that case, power from either the solar array or the battery could only ever be used or stored in the home behind the meter, as it's called.